Hello and welcome once again to Latveria Library, where I talk about all things comics. Today I want to talk about one of the most important areas of the Marvel Universe, a dark dimension where some of the most iconic villains and stories have come out of, the Negative Zone. Some of you may or may not know what the Negative Zone is or why it's important. Well, it's important to me anyway. So I thought I'd do a fun explanation of this somewhat complex dimension. So like, subscribe, and share if you enjoy the content, and let's get into the video. There are many universes, alternate realities, and dimensions in the Marvel Universe, but not many as important or mysterious as the Negative Zone. Created by Jack Kirby and Stan Lee in 1966, the Negative Zone first premiered in Fantastic Four issue 51. Mainly as a way to defend against Galactus and other alien threats that had access to light speed, Reed Richards had created a machine that would open a dimensional entrance into subspace, hoping to find a way of his own to master the speed of light. As Reed described, it was a dimension parallel to ours where positive matter like our world is made up of was transposed into negative, which can be dangerous. Negative matter can have an effect on someone's emotional and mental state if exposed to for a long period of time. For a while it seemed that the Negative Zone was just an endless continuum of colorful lights and sound, except for the occasional flying creature here and there. Until issue 61, when after a fight with Sandman, Reed was sucked in and trapped within a dimension. As he was being pulled towards a continuous explosion of negative and positive matter from our world, he witnesses a spacecraft flying away from the debris he clung onto. Out of all the trips he had made to the Negative Zone, this was the first time he had ever seen intelligent life. Unfortunately for him, it wouldn't be the last. What Reed didn't know at that moment was that the spacecraft had dropped off a very powerful villain that had been terrorizing theirs and many other worlds within the Negative Zone. With moments to spare, Reed is saved by Triton of the Inhumans, but the two were followed back through the dimensional door by this practically unstoppable villain who is known as Blastar. After a ferocious battle with the Fantastic Four, plus a little teamwork, Reed was able to contain Blastar's powers with a helmet that cut off his ability to create energy blast. After this encounter, Reed had stopped exploring the Negative Zone for a while, and opted to use the dimension as kind of a prison for some of his worst adversaries, like Super Adaptoid and Galactus, believing the mysterious universe was too dangerous to explore any further, until Sue Storm, during her pregnancy, began to suffer from cosmic radiation sickness due to the storm that gave her powers. The only way to save Sue and the baby was an element made up of antimatter, called Element X. This crucial mineral was of course only found in the Negative Zone, so Reed, accompanied by Johnny and Ben, head back into the place they never wanted to traverse again. Unfortunately, the three are captured almost immediately by an evil warlord obsessed with immortality and ruling over the entire Negative Zone. His name was Annihilus, and he ends up becoming one of the greatest threats to the heroes of Earth, but I'll leave that for another story. The prison they were held captive in held many different races and creatures, apparently so Annihilus could study the weaknesses of all the creatures in the Negative Zone to find the easiest way to conquer over the entire dimension. None of them spoke, they were all too terrified, but this did make Reed think about how the Negative Zone could be way more than he first suspected. Maybe it was closer to his universe. Maybe many advanced intelligent races made up of antimatter were out there. But what would happen if humans made up of positive matter came in contact with them? It's always more questions than answers when it comes to this dimension. But at least one question was answered. The element Reed was looking for was in the grasp of Annihilus, and it's what was granting him immortality, the only thing he really cared about. Eventually Reed was able to steal the element and escape with Johnny and Ben, but Annihilus wasn't ready to give up the only thing he loved. The heroes were chased all through the Negative Zone by Annihilus and some of his worst monsters. Finally coming to a dead end and out of ideas, Reed makes a deal with Annihilus, give them back their repellers so they could repel the negative matter and get home, and they would give him Element X. Annihilus agreed, but before they made the exchange, Reed was able to extract enough of the element to cure Sue's radiation. Now, since Annihilus and Blastar's introduction, the two over the years have fought each other and the heroes of Earth for control over the Negative Zone and the 616 universe. Through these conflicts, we learn more about the different species of the Negative Zone. I believe the first and probably the most important introduced was the Tiana in Fantastic Four 140. It's explained by Annihilus, and I'm paraphrasing here, that 2 million years ago, the Tiana were the only race in the negative zone, but had far superior technology than most universes had ever dreamed of, even mastering genetic engineering and space travel. Either through their own arrogance or loneliness, they had decided to create life throughout the dimension, which they called the Seeds of Life. The Tiana set out across the negative zone, planting these seeds on as many planets as they could that were inhabitable, and watched as they grew into new plant and animal life. But unfortunately, the Tiana would never get to see their creations evolve. After one of their ships crashed and the crew starved to death, the Tiana felt great remorse, and took this as a sign that the universe disagreed with their plans to play God, so they co-signed the entire race to the black hole at the center of the negative zone, which we will talk about later. Over the centuries, each planet's inhabitants grew and evolved, and soon the galaxy was teeming with life. To give a few examples, there were the more human-like people of Argor, Mantracora, Castor, and Tarasu, who were actually helped by Spider-Man in their war against Blastar. Then there were the more insect-like people of Arthros, where Annihilus was born. And finally, Baalur, where Blastar's empire resides. With all the planets and creatures out there, you would think the negative zone was massive. And although we don't know much, it would seem that the universe is very old, much older than ours. But also that can't be confirmed, due to how time moves more rapid in the negative zone. Either way, it looks as if the dimension is at the end of its lifespan. Over the years, it has been getting smaller and smaller, and is actually in the process of full collapse, thanks to the black hole in the center of the negative zone, deemed the annihilation area. As the area grows stronger, the faster and more of the dimension it pulls in, eventually destroying the entire universe and its population sooner rather than later. But the black hole goes by another name as well, the Crossroads of Infinity. It had been theorized by Dr. Doom that after the Beyonder's death at the end of Secret Wars 2, that his power exploded into a new universe, and that the black hole was actually a gateway to it and many other dimensions. He tested this theory in Fantastic Four 319, sending himself and the first family through the vortex, and crossing through many different worlds. With so many great storylines and mysteries over the years, and yet to be told, it's no wonder why the negative zone is still being used to this day. And though we still don't know much, the mystery of it all is what makes it great to me. I hope you all enjoyed the video. I know I didn't cover everything, but I don't like spoiling every great story that includes the negative zone. Check out Annihilation and Infinity. Those are two really good stories that have some ties to the negative zone. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if you enjoyed the video. And I'll see you in the next.